There's a moment in character development that stops almost every writer cold. You've done the work. You know what your character does. You know the wound that created it. You've traced the distorted conclusion they drew from that wound, the lie at the center of their psychology. You understand them, maybe better than they understand themselves. And then you try to write their transformation, and it doesn't move. It feels mechanical. It feels imposed. Your character resists the very change your story demands of them, and you can't figure out why. Most writers assume they've made a craft error. They haven't. What they're bumping into is one of the deepest truths in human psychology. The lie is not the enemy. The lie is the shelter. I spent 35 years in behavioral diagnostics and executive coaching. I worked with leaders inside Fortune 500 companies, some of the most analytically gifted people I've ever encountered. They could diagnose complex organizational problems in minutes. They understood systems, incentives, human behavior at scale. And some of them were completely unable to change a personal pattern that was costing them everything. Not because they lacked intelligence, not because they lacked motivation. They wanted to change. They'd hired me specifically to help them change. They could articulate the problem with surgical precision, but the lie was load-bearing, and they couldn't let go of it without feeling like the whole structure would come down. That's the insight that took me years to fully understand. The lie isn't just a false belief, it's infrastructure. Here's what I mean. When a wound forms, a childhood loss, a formative failure, a betrayal, years of conditional love, the mind does something immediately practical. It generates an explanation, a conclusion about why that happened and what it means about the world, about other people, about the self. That conclusion, however distorted, does something crucial. It makes the wound survivable. It converts chaos into pattern. It answers the question no child, no adolescent, no devastated adult can tolerate leaving unanswered. Why did this happen, and how do I make sure it doesn't happen again? The lie is the answer, and the answer, however false, is enormously comforting. I had a client, a senior executive, brilliant woman, genuinely respected, who had built her entire career on a single operating principle: never show vulnerability. Not in negotiations, not in setbacks, not ever. She knew exactly where it came from. A father who treated visible emotion as weakness. Years of being told that composure was strength and feeling was liability. Her lie wasn't hard to identify. If people see that I'm struggling, I lose everything I've built. We worked on it for months. She understood it intellectually. She could trace its origins with perfect clarity. And then she'd walk into a difficult meeting and the armor would go back on, completely automatic, before she was even conscious of reaching for it. Because the lie wasn't just a thought. It was a survival mechanism. It had protected her. And some part of her, the part that remembered being a young woman in rooms that didn't want to take her seriously, wasn't ready to leave home without it. This is the psychology that drives character resistance in fiction, and most writers misread it. When a character self-sabotages a relationship that could actually heal them, when they walk away from help they desperately need, when they choose the familiar pain over the unfamiliar better thing, writers often frame this as stubbornness, or denial, or a plot mechanism that creates conflict. But that's not what it is. It's the character protecting their shelter. Think about what the lie actually provides. It provides predictability. If I believe I can never truly trust anyone, then every disappointment confirms what I already knew. The world is exactly as I mapped it. That confirmation, even when it hurts, is perversely comforting. The alternative is a world that has no reliable map. And for someone who is hurt badly enough, an unpredictable world is far more terrifying than a reliably painful one. The lie provides identity. This is the one writers underestimate most. After enough time, the lie doesn't just describe what your character believes, it describes who they are. I am the person who doesn't need anyone. I am the person who keeps people safe. I am the person who earns their place. Strip that lie away, and you haven't just corrected a false belief, you've removed a self. And the question that opens up underneath it, if this isn't who I am, then who am I? Is one of the most destabilizing questions a human being can face. The lie provides purpose. If your character believes they're solely responsible for everyone's survival, that belief is exhausting and joyless and limiting. But it also gives them something to do every single morning, a reason to get up, a role that is unambiguously theirs. Freedom from the lie would mean freedom from the burden, but also freedom from the structure that makes getting out of bed feel meaningful. The clearest example I've seen of this in contemporary storytelling plays out in Succession. Logan Roy, a man who built an empire and couldn't give any piece of it away, not to his children, not to anyone. Writers often frame characters like this as simply controlling or power-hungry. But watch what happens when Logan is genuinely threatened. The rigidity isn't about power, it's about survival logic formed long before the empire existed. The lie underneath it, I am only safe when I am the one who cannot be removed, was almost certainly forged in conditions that made it necessary. What looks like domination from the outside is, from the inside, the only shelter he knows. That's why his children's pleas don't move him. They're asking him to demolish the only structure he's ever trusted to hold. So what does this mean for writing transformation? It means the arc cannot be character encounters truth, character accepts truth, character changes. Real transformation, the kind that earns the reader's belief, requires the character to pay the cost of releasing the lie. They have to feel what it would mean to give it up, not just intellectually, in their body, in their relationships, in their sense of who they are. The character has to stand at the edge of that loss and choose anyway. That choice only lands if the writer understood why the lie was worth keeping in the first place. If your character's resistance to change feels like an obstacle to get through, you haven't yet felt the full weight of what they'd be giving up. When you do, when you understand the lie as shelter, not obstruction, the transformation becomes something else entirely. It becomes an act of genuine courage, and the reader feels that. The writers I work with who create the most psychologically precise characters share one habit. They never ask, "Why won't my character change?" They ask, "What would my character lose if they did?" That shift in the question changes everything. It stops treating the lie as the enemy to be defeated and starts treating it as something that was once necessary, that served a real purpose, and that has simply outlived the conditions that created it. That's what makes a transformation feel earned. Not that the character finally saw reason, but that they finally found something worth more to them than the shelter.